I went and saw Pet Cemetery.
How was it?
It was really good. I would give it 3 out of 5 stars. It's not a fucking masterpiece, or it's not on that level.
It looks great.
It really is. It's incredibly well done. The only problems that I have with it are just the fact that I know the source material, so it robs the movie of having any tension. It's inevitable. What's going to happen, so it's like
So
you're just kind of along for
I
the
might
ride.
I might actually enjoy it then because I've seen Pet Cemetery once when I was like 10 years old and never saw it again.
Oh, dude, yes,
So
I
I don't
think
know anything.
yeah, you're gonna. I would imagine you'll come out liking it. Of course, there are the horror cliches. There's a lot of moments where they don't justify why the characters are doing the stupid fucking things that they're doing, but otherwise, you don't really have a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's every horror film. I think Quiet Place was probably the best I've seen in a long time where everything they did kind of made sense,
Yeah,
and
for
if it did,
sure.
it was because they were a kid. And you're like, okay, you're a kid. That you get a pass for doing dumb shit because you're a kid.
I want to see a. I'm trying to think of an example, but I want to see a horror movie where they're able to sidestep all of those like pratfalls and make good decisions, and still shit happen to them. You know?
You know what? They actually make really good decisions in for a slasher film is House of Wax.
I hadn't seen
Have you ever
that.
seen it with like
Paris
Paris?
Hilton.
I think Paris Hilton's in it. Yeah,
Yeah.
shockingly, like they're like, let's look for a gun. Let's do this. They find a crossbow. You're like, okay, you're actually trying to fight back instead of just doing dumb shit. I mean, it does have the dumb things, but not nearly as egregious as some other movies.
Somebody good directed that. I can't remember who it is. Oh, Wam Colette Sarah, who is the guy that ended up doing. What did he do? I think he did that movie Don't Breathe, which was pretty fucking good.
Never saw it. I didn't know the same guy. I really want to see that movie. Just never got around to it.
It's strong, dude. It was one of the better ones that came out that year. But all right, I guess we'll go ahead and get started here. You good?
I'm good.
All
I
right.
got stories pulled up.
Good. I'm eager to hear. I kind of like this idea of not sharing them ahead of time.
You know, one day we're gonna all bring the three exact same stories. It's gonna happen.
It might happen today. We'll see. All right.
Well,
We'll
like
go
one or
ahead.
two different.
In 3 and 2, 1. In 3 and 2, 1. Welcome back to People Are Terrible, you guys. We really appreciate you stopping by. I'm Jeremy, joined as always with Caleb Miles.
What it's up, man? How you doing?
I'm good. Good to talk to you. It's feels like we hadn't done this in like a couple days, like maybe even a week.
It feels like almost an exact week to me. Is what it almost feels like.
Crazy how time goes. Anyways, yeah.
know.
As always, guys, we're going to talk to you about some weird news. Then we're going to move on to some shit going on in Florida, which probably also qualifies as weird news. And then we've got a couple of topics that we're going to discuss with you today. I have brought the topic of creepy Uncle Joe Biden and what the kind of consensus around him, what the solution is, maybe, whether or not what he does is or isn't acceptable. I'm really curious to get your thoughts on this. And you brought a topic today as well.
I brought forth. I know I'm late, but it's something I've been wanting to talk about and never got around to. Is the whole Cardi B Robin men and kind of more the should we forgive her and the reactions around her said behavior.
Oh,
Is that what she does? Is that the noise?
I think so.
Is that the noise?
I think so. I think that's Cardi B, but I might have got my memes mixed up or whatever. You guys let us know down in the comments section. Not a big Cardi B guy. I don't know if you can tell that about me.
Yeah, me either. I don't really know anything. I'm a huge hip hop head, and I'm not a big Cardi B guy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Right off the top of my head, the only song of hers that I can think of is the one that she performed at the Grammys, and the whole entire ceremony. I was like, "Fuck, I'm old. This all just sounds like noise."
I'm wearing a Death Row t-shirt right now, so that's how old I am.
Yeah, represent. I'm glad you showed that. I didn't realize that's what that was. Death Row is the label that pays me.
Man, those were the days. We're just old farts. That's what that means.
Remember back when music was good, when Snoop Dogg was like, when Eazy-E was in, some pussy is the place for me.
And the thing is like we do romanticize that. That music was equally as bad and dumb as modern rap
It
is.
probably was, but I'm not willing to own that. So, anyways, let's go ahead and move into some weird news headline. Why don't you kick it off first with me this time?
So, a a child daycare center loses its license after they lose some children and they're found by the freeway.
Hold up. So there was a daycare and they had kids that left the daycare and were roaming down the freeway?
Yes, this is terrifying. So, a band of toddlers, this came via HuffPost, a band of toddlers found wandering near highway after escaping from
God.
daycare. Kids are safe. That's the first thing.
That's good.
It's called Color Wheel Learning Center in Prairieville, Louisiana. Had its license revoked. A Louisiana daycare center had its license revoked after 4 toddlers somehow got loose and the driver spotted them near a local highway. It was on March 22nd. About the local news station came out. According to the daycare staff, had no explanation and no idea for why the 1-year-olds, so 4 1-year-olds,
oh no,
got out of the play yard and ended up outside of the fence by a nearby highway. The passenger who spotted the kids stopped, gathered the children, and returned to the daycare, according to the news station. The center had a similar incident last October, so they had a great track record. When a 1-year-old opened the gate and wound up in a parking lot, that event led to a citation from the state for the lack of supervision. And if Color Wheel doesn't appeal its current license revocation, or it does not appeal its denial, they will be closed, which I think is very understandable. I think, if you allow 4 1-year-olds to walk around a highway,
Jesus,
you probably
Christ.
shouldn't be watching 1-year-olds.
They should have revoked their license the first time. And I'm not like some super conservative. I'm not even a parent, so I'm like not one of these helicopter parents or something like that. But come on, man. I guess there's a couple things that it doesn't say in the article. Does it say how many kids they were watching?
It doesn't say that. I'm assuming it's quite a few, but
because like 4 out of 400, okay, maybe I can see them like not see them getting away and that being okay, but not noticing immediately. But if they got like 10 kids in the class, like
I'm
wake
assuming
the
probably
fuck
about like
up.
20, probably, and guessing what is that? What I'm gonna Google what a daycare is, how many people. But my thing is, like. I do eventually want to be a parent, and I'm not one of these people who think kids need to be, like you said, helicopter parents need to be watched constantly. I think it's actually fun. It's good for kids to get hurt, make mistakes. I think it's very healthy.
Hitchhike down the highway at 1 year old.
But good, going to a highway, that's a whole other level,
It's so strange. Like, okay, so weird. As a driver, you pick up a couple of 1-year-olds. What do they got? Dog tags on? How does a 1-year-old articulate what daycare they go to? Jesus Christ. That is so young. Kids aren't even like, I mean, some kids might be able to say a couple words at one, I guess. I don't even know if that's possible, but so like they like escaped essentially and ended up roaming in the most dangerous place possible. These people deserve to be punished for this. I guess shutting down the business is part of it, but whoever was actually responsible that day needs to suffer some sort of consequences. I don't want to dole it out, but fuck, man. All 4 of those kids could have been roadkill, like Pet Sematary.
They could have been roadkill. They could have been abducted. You don't know what could have happened.
No doubt.
So I just Googled. Apparently, your average daycare is anywhere from 10 to 30, 30 being the max. So let's say it's 10. These fuckers lost half.
Jesus. Yeah. Like, if you don't know 40%? The kids' faces well enough to look around and be like, oh shit, Johnny's not here, then you're a fucking retard.
That's my thing, is like, how do you look around and be like, man, Swear there was like almost double this amount of kids in this place.
Jesus. Oh,
And what type of
Louisiana.
fence do they have that a 1-year-old can get out of?
That's what's crazy. Like most everything has child proof whatever on it, especially if you're at a facility that's supposed to be looking after kids. They've got the little safety things, whatever they are, to keep kids from being able to open pantries, to keep kids from being able to open doors, fences, whatever the thing is. I'm just wondering. I almost fucking guarantee you, whoever this person that was supposed to be watching these kids were on their cell phone. They were reading some bullshit list about. Do you know what the stars from what Little Rascals look like today? Whatever.
It was some fucking BuzzFeed article.
Yeah. Idiots. Idiots. Well, it'd be the best if they were Googling techniques on how to be a good teacher or daycare assistant.
I wonder too. So the previous story, the one that last October, the kid who got through the gate. Let's say this kid's also 1 year old. I'm assuming roughly the same age. Let's even give him the benefit of the doubt of 2. Like this kid can't tie its shoelaces,
Right.
but it can get through a gate. What type of gate do you have?
Maybe that kid shared his escape plans with the other 4 kids, like Boss Baby, like they all can talk to each other. And he was like, "Hey, look, if you want to bust out of this joint, all you got to do, like the Velociraptors, they test different spots in the electrical fence in Jurassic Park to find the weakness in the system." And this one kid's
They're
just like a genius.
Sticks at it.
Yeah, crayons. Oh shit, that's wild, dude.
They're like, here's our escape plan. So when this bitch is playing on her phone, you just walk through the open gate that she never closes.
Yeah.
That's her escape plan.
Straight to the highway. We're gonna catch a ride. We're gonna get out of here and go to a place where people aren't crazy, like Florida or Arkansas.
I would, if I was one of those places where, if I were a parent and this happened to mine, I'm not a big like sue people sort of thing. This is something that I might be like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking sue you. You let my kids almost walk onto a highway.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's so irresponsible. And any parent should be mortified about that. I'm sure there are parents that read that article that are thinking like, should I put my kid out of daycare?
This is also a great concept for a movie. Do it like a Boss Baby thing, and then do it all CG, and then have them escaping, and then like wandering out there, but do it like real raunchy, like still do it like an R-rated movie, like not make it a kid's film.
Yeah.
Out them blowing this joint type of thing. There's a movie in there.
Yeah, it's like a Prison Break movie.
And then just put based on a true story at the beginning and put the name of this nursery up there.
No doubt. All right, well, fuck these people. So 2 men were arrested in Arkansas after they took turns shooting at each other. And the headline's misleading. They did not shoot at each other. They literally shot each other. So in Rogers, Arkansas, there were 2 men that have been arrested on suspicion of aggravated assault after police say they shot each other while taking turns wearing a bulletproof vest. The Northwest Arkansas Democrat Gazette reports that 50-year-old Charles Ferris and 36-year-old Christopher Hicks were arrested on Monday. The affidavit says that the 2 men are neighbors and were drinking on a deck Sunday when Ferris told Hicks to shoot him with a .22 caliber rifle while Ferris wore the vest. The affidavit said that obviously the shot left a red mark on Ferris's chest and that he was angry because it hurt. So he said, "All right, you put on the vest," and then he unloaded the clip into the dude's back, causing bruises but no serious injuries. Yeah.
Man, that is so stupid, because even if you're wearing a bulletproof vest, you could hit a wrong area. That's unreal dumb.
That is the most just stupid, ignorant behavior, total alcohol induced. Like that, you will never hear that story where the men were not drinking on a deck.
Do you remember the story, not to take away from this one, but do you remember the story of the YouTuber who shot her husband?
Caleb, look, man, we're sticking specifically to the 2 men. No, of course I do. Of course I do. That's one of the first things I thought about. Tell me about it again, just in case who's listening doesn't know.
So it was, I don't know if they were married, but they were boyfriend and girlfriend. They had a kid. And they got the bright idea to hold up a book, I think like a dictionary or phone book, something like that. And I think it was like a Desert Eagle that his girlfriend fired to see if the bullet would be stopped. And naturally, because it's not a movie, the bullet went straight through and killed the guy, and their little daughter witnessed the entire event.
It was such a sad story because they released part of the video, and the dude's begging his girlfriend to fucking shoot him. She's pregnant, and she's got a kid, and she's on this freaking video saying, please don't make me do it. Please don't make me do it. What if something bad happens? And he's like, something like, if God wants to take me, then I guess it's my time. It's like, no, stupid. If you want to get shot in a phone book, then maybe it's your time. But okay, so yeah, this is an interesting one. It is from a little ways back, but she was 21 years old at the time, and in the audio she says, I can't do this, babe, I'm so scared, as he urged her to fire a high caliber pistol into the book he was holding in front of his chest. It was a 1.5-inch hardcover encyclopedia, and this 22-year-old thinks it's going to stop the bullet of a 50 cal Desert Eagle. Exactly what you said. Shot him point blank and fucking killed him. And that's the gun debate. I have mixed feelings on. These kind of things are what's like, man, this is everything bad about gun ownership.
This is super irresponsible gun ownership. This is something that, first of all, anyone with a brain should know this, even if you're not familiar with guns at all. I would not fire a 22 into a phone book and hold it in front of me. Just wouldn't do it.
No.
If you want to test that, fine. Put it in front of some ballistics gel, put it and fire it, and you want to make a YouTube video, that's actually a super cool YouTube video. How far would it go through? Different calibers. Cool. Don't hold it in front of yourself.
Yeah.
That is so, so at first, when she didn't get sentenced, I was like, fucking throw her away too, even though they have kids, which is going to cause an event there, but are they any safer in her hands? But then seeing the video, where she's crying and all that, and he was very much pressuring this girl into doing it. It was just an all around sad thing. If I'm being honest, I have a hard time feeling bad for him.
Yeah, fuck him, really.
But, yeah, no, I think you're actually right. Yeah, fuck him, because he left behind 2 kids and a woman
who is forever gonna be scarred because she murdered him, and that's not what she woke up to fucking do. But back to the other story. This wasn't in front of 30 witnesses like this guy who wanted to be YouTube famous. This is 2 drunk dudes on their back porch, like, hey man, I'm bored. You want to shoot each other? Let's fucking throw on a bulletproof vest and just shoot each other and see how it happens. And then, okay, cool. So I'm going to shoot you first, right? Yeah, man, go ahead and shoot me first. All right, cool. Shoots him. Oh, fuck, man, that hurt. Well, yeah, you just got shot. What are you mad about, you fucking idiot? So he puts the other guy puts on the bulletproof vest, and homeboy unloads on him, just like blah, 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 blah. That is fucked up. And like you said, it would have been, a bulletproof vest covers your body, but it doesn't cover you from the waist down or on your shoulders or your neck. He could have fucking missed and murdered him.
Especially anyone who's fired a gun at fast capacity where you're popping off rounds, accuracy is severely compromised.
You're absolutely right about that. That's a really good point.
The pull upward if you're shooting, so he could be pulling upward and he could have easily got him in the neck or just right above, and taken this guy out.
So they were arrested. What do you think about that?
I'd say we go ahead and just let him do it without the vest this time and just be less 2 idiots.
I don't know. I think you and I are pretty libertarian, and I say, hey man, if you guys want to shoot each other to death in your backyard, you ain't hurting me.
So
good luck.
I honestly, even though I'm making a joke about it, I think they should absolutely be arrested because these people are obviously not responsible gun owners.
That's a good point.
And what if they would have been doing, okay, they already do this behavior. What if they decide to set up glass bottles in front of their neighbor's house and shoot them? Like
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
so
It does prove
that's the only
they at
reason why.
least need to get their licenses revoked, which I'm sure that's a given. I'm sure they don't have their license to carry anymore. But let me see what kind of gun it was. Does it say? Oh yeah, it was a 22.
22 cal.
So
Yeah.
not a super strong rifle. Regardless, they definitely can be fatal. I want to say probably lots of people die every year from 22s just because they're a very common caliber gun.
I had a friend who personally died from a 22. He got shot in the side and it bounced around his insides and tore him up because it was a low caliber.
Damn. Yeah,
So
that's
it's
a
very
good
common.
point. Like if it is a high cal, it's gonna at least go through and you don't have a bullet lodged in you.
Hmm.
For better or worse. That's horrible, dude. I had no idea.
Yeah. So 22s it's a very real thing. Like one of those bullets could have hit on the side and that could have been it for him.
All right, guys. Well, y'all let us know what you think about this conversation that we're having here. We can talk broader about guns, but let's talk more specifically about these two guys in Arkansas. Again, in case you guys want to make fun of them, that is Charles Ferris and Christopher Hicks. Christopher Hicks, what an appropriate last
Oh,
name.
I was just gonna say, I was like, of course his last name is Hicks.
All
Yeah.
right. What do you got? What's that thing from Rick and Morty? Isn't that what they say? The contest with the singing. What do you
Which
got?
one?
The
Oh, Swifty.
yeah, Swifty. What's the thing that the alien race says in the Swifty?
Oh, give us what you got or
Yeah,
whatever.
something like that.
So
Anyways, what's your story?
a rhino poacher trampled to death by elephants, then eaten by lions at Kruger National Park in South Africa.
Fuck yes, dude. I didn't see that. So,
So
well, what?
this wasn't even my original story. This I saw tweeted out by Ricky Gervais. And that's the only reason why it's a brand new story from today, from 6:33 a.m. So a game reserve owner said it sends a powerful message to poachers. Um, for okay, a poacher hunting rhinos in Kruger National Park met a gruesome end after being trampled to death by an elephant and then eaten by a pride of hungry lions. Four
God,
other
dude.
poachers who fled the game reserve in South Africa in terror were picked up by the police and explained how a member of their gang had been killed. A piece of clothing, which was recovered along with the man's head and limbs after his body was eaten by a pride of
Holy
lions.
shit.
And they show the piece of clothing. They obviously don't show the body or the head. They described how an angry elephant surprised them as they stalked endangered rhino and stamped their friend to death, giving them a chance to run for safety. Kruger Park Rangers immediately set out to the area known as Crocodile Bridge, which is an amazing name, and set up their Air Wing helicopter in a bid to find the dead man's remains before it got dark. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like
That is kind of amazing. I know that all lives aren't really equal and we should appreciate or respect human life and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm sure the guy had a family and that's all sad and whatnot. But like, talk about poetic justice, man. Fuck around out there in the animal kingdom and get eaten.
Well, and that's another thing. If this was just a hunter with a hunting license and this happened to, I'd like, this is horrible. This is a tragedy. This is a poacher who went out and illegally hunted rhino,
An
which is an
endangered
endangered
species.
Yeah. So I feel like this is justice 100%. Like this is not a guy who got a permit and he's out hunting deer and gets attacked by a bear. Like that's entirely different thing. And as someone who I don't hunt personally, but there are very good ecological reasons to hunt. We
Yeah,
should hunt,
sure. And I agree with that.
But this is different. This is not a hunter. This is a poacher. And I just think it's the most poetic justice. And that not only did he get trampled, that by the time they got him, all it was left were head and limbs.
Well, and both you and I are both Joe Rogan fans, and I got a lot of respect for bow hunters. It's old school, and it really levels the playing field, and there should be an inherent danger to going out and killing wild animals. It shouldn't be such an easy sport where you can just go out there with a heat-seeking missile and fucking murder a deer. Like, there's no sport in that. So, like, there is a certain level of risk you take every time you go out into the wild with wild animals. You and I have talked about animal attacks many times on this show. And, if it were a hunter that were out there with a license, legally hunting, and he were attacked by a rhino and shot it dead, I've got no problem with that. That to me is not an issue. It's just like ethically, I think there are about 5,000 black rhinos left in the world, period. They're gonna probably be poached to extinction because of idiots and their superstitions that it's an aphrodisiac, that the horn works as an aphrodisiac, making it more valuable than cocaine in parts of the world. It's these weirder old customs and traditions and almost holistic medicine ideas that like there's healing properties in tigers and all of that shit. No, we are smarter than that now. We have advanced past that. There are synthetic drugs out there that will do exactly. I mean, what you never heard of Viagra before? Why you gotta fucking eat a rhino horn to get an aphrodisiac? It's fucking crazy. But yes, not only did he get killed by an elephant, which elephants are bad motherfuckers. Don't forget that. Like, did you know, Caleb, that elephants have better memories than almost any other species?
So the only reason I know this is because I watched a documentary where this poachers went out and poached an elephant.
I love
illegally.
This story, dude.
And they fucking followed the trails back to this like little village, which this part's tragic because not everyone in the village was involved in it. They followed it back to literally just get revenge, and just went through this village and fucked shit up,
people out.
Yeah, and then left. You know,
because they hold grudges. I think elephants are some of the most intelligent and just like respectable animals in the entire animal kingdom. There's so much going on inside these creatures. They mourn their dead. I mean, a lot of species of mammals mourn their dead, but there's something about elephants that just they're so I don't even know what the word to say. Obviously, they've got empathy. Obviously, that they like will stick around and mourn their dead. But yeah, so that's that. I saw that same documentary, and that's kind of what brought that up to me. I think typically elephants will live around 80 years, maybe give or take a little bit. And yeah, they say an elephant never forgets, and they truly don't. So one of these elephants was like, look at this motherfucker right here. He is about to die, and just went over and murdered him. And then on top of that, and this is the way that it should be, in the same way that people, if we hunt and we kill animals, we should eat the animals and use every part of them. After the lions find this dead carrion just kind of laying around, they're like, all right, we're not going to let that go to waste. And they just ate the dude to pieces. So I don't know if that's supposed to be funny, but it kind of makes me feel good.
It did me too. Like I said, it was one of those things like, and I'm one of those people who, I've said it numerous times, I think even equating human life and animal life is ridiculous because human life is far superior. But when you're doing shit like this, it's just justice. It really is. When you're doing something illegally, and did white rhinos go extinct in 2018?
I think so. Let me double check. I do think so.
Officially did. I think there were only like 2 left, and I think the black rhinos, I mean, because of shit like this, is next. Which I'm fine with hunting, but we should never hunt an animal to extinction. Like that's just like animal. I hate to use this term because I think it's making it light of this term, but like animal genocide, essentially, where you're just completely wiping something. I don't agree with, obviously.
So just to clear, like, no, they are not extinct, but they have been pushed almost completely to extinction. And you know, not to take away your point, there are several animals. There was that one, it was like a mix between a jackal and a zebra looking thing. Was it a dingo? Is that, I don't know if it was a dingo, but there was that one species. I always remember seeing it in books. And remember when it went extinct, like, I mean, it was 20, 30 years ago, and it seems like more times than not, it's because we're after things like pelts, or like we talked about a minute ago, some weird aphrodisiac, some weird kind of medicine that has never even been proven to work, or worse yet, we're after ivory. It's always poor poachers exploiting Mother Nature so that wealthy Westerners, and not always Westerners, but can cherish and covet these things that the only reason they have value is because we've assigned value to them. Like clubbing little baby seals to death so that some rich dumb bitch can wear their fur. Like that's disgusting to me.
You actually bring up a really good point. Like, so for the people who who like kill seals and they're village people and they eat them, that is entirely different than someone who kills a seal for whatever reason, wanting a pelt or something like that. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. If you're using it to survive, if you're using it as a source of food, then it's understandable, and not only understandable, it's kind of responsible in some ways, but people still need to be educated. Like, if you've got the option to shoot and kill I don't know, let's just a baby seal as opposed to poke a hole in the ice and fish and get your fish that way, then regardless if the seal tastes better, I think you have a responsibility to the ecosystem, not just out of a love for animals or a love for mammals or anything like that, but because every single species, for the most part, serves a very specific function in controlling population of other species. It's that whole idea, if you kill too many spiders, then some species of insect is going to overpopulate. So there's like the circle of life, but you get what I'm saying.
And then we're gonna get killer pollen, and it's gonna make the plants crazy, and then the happening is gonna happen.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, that's a crazy story. I like that one. All mine are. This one's wanted. Man who stole chainsaw by sticking it down his pants. If you know a guy who stole a chainsaw by hiding it in his pants, Fresno police want to talk to you. There's footage of it. He's in a hardware store. Might as well be an Ace hardware store. I don't know exactly what it was. And he literally takes this gigantic chainsaw blade first, sticks it down his pants, and then covers it with his jacket and just walks away.
How did no one catch this?
How did no one? That is a great question, because this thing is, it's not a good snug fit. You know what I mean?
My thing is just like he's like walking out and they're like, "Sir, do you have something in your pants?" "Oh no, it's just my giant spiky penis." Like,
yeah, or like you catch him and you just, instead of like calling him on it, you just grab that ripcord and.
Remember a couple of podcasts ago, I said that there was a label on a chainsaw that said "Do not use on genitals," and I was like, it's because someone has done that at some point in time.
This is the guy. I do remember you saying that.
This is the guy.
Dang,
yeah.
Dude. I don't care. Like, chainsaw on or off. It's got teeth. I ain't sticking that shit anywhere near my junk.
It's like the same people who will hold a gun in the front of their pants pointed right at their dick. You're like, really? If that goes off, that's really where you want it pointed?
No doubt about it. What a stupid thing. What a stupid thing. But anyways, I thought the headline was funny. We'll go ahead and move on from that one. What else you got?
So I got this one. Judge orders both twins to pay child support when neither admits paternity.
Saw the headline for this, but didn't get the details.
So a pair of identical twins in Brazil are in double trouble after a judge ordered them to both pay child support for a single baby. One of the twins had casual fling with the woman who later gave birth to a baby girl. The woman The woman has no idea which twin it is. She has no idea.
So she did have sex with both of them.
No, she had sex with one, she claims, but she doesn't know which one.
She just doesn't know which one it was.
Which, I don't know if that's the entire story. I think I would assume that they probably were both in there at some point,
Oh,
and
no.
because they're identical twins, the paternity test came back positive.
They're both positive DNA. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shit.
Neither man would say who did it. So the judge was like, fine, you're both paying child support. So she's getting double child support, which is $60 a month, which is 30% of Brazilians' minimum wage. So she'll actually just get double of it. My thing, he says, and I agree with this, such vile behavior cannot be tolerated by the law. And I agree with that. I think if you create a child, you should be responsible for that child, period, whether you're male or female. And my thing is, I'm like, doesn't sound like it was the greatest thought out plan by any party involved.
No.
Yeah,
No. That's so weird. So they may or may not have both had sex, but her claim is I had
just
sex with
one.
one of them. I just don't know which one it was. And twins, they like to play pranks like that, from what I understand. I've always heard, like, I went to my twins' class for the day to see if anybody would recognize, kind of thing, you know? And I don't know, man. Where I'm kind of hung up is, should they both have to pay child support at the rate that it's supposed to be, or should they have to go in 50-50?
I think okay, so I would assume legally 50-50 is the right answer. I do think there is some sort of, again, poetic justice for having them both be like, no, I ain't gonna take responsibility for a child, and they're like, fuck it, you're both paying.
One of those motherfuckers, though, well, again, we don't know the whole story, but one of those brothers is probably like, you piece of shit. You just now put me
Unless
in a situation, unless.
uh, it's both of them, and they're both lying too, because they're just like, nah, we don't want to let the world know that we were out there DPing a chick together with our balls hitting each other.
Oh, okay. You don't mean that they at separate times. You're
No,
proposing to me that they were both in there at the same time.
that's what I'm assuming.
Oh man, the plot thickens. That's so weird to me. Like, what an idiosyncratic case that I'm sure that not a lot of judges have ever had to deal with. I wonder if their demeanor or the way that they carried themselves played a factor in it. Because how do you get to the bottom of that past a DNA test? Your fucking hands are tied, right?
Yeah, there's literally nothing you can do, is where, I just don't understand. I mean, for her too, that she's like, I just don't know. And don't get me wrong, I've had my one night stands and all that where I didn't know the person like I should have.
Where you
So,
got tag teamed by a couple Brazilian twins.
yep, just spit roasted. But it's at the same time, I'm like, that's why I don't, for some reason, I have nothing to base this on. I do not believe that she just slept with one of them. I just don't believe it for a second.
Man, what if the whole thing is an elaborate ruse and she knows exactly which one did it? And in order to get twice the child support, she was just like, I'm going to say it was both of them.
Do you think that would have been a good plan? I
No.
mean, obviously it worked,
Yeah, it
but
worked, but in general, no, I wouldn't think it'd be a good plan at all. If it was that, then she hit the jackpot. I'd like to think that anybody was that clever, but it's probably what you said. She boned them both. I'm not gonna go so far as to say it was at the same time, even though I like that idea. Like, that's a better story to me. But it's obvious that she had sex with both of them, or she would. Because identical twins, they look identical for like how long before life starts to hit you and they start to kind of diverge in look, whether one of them gets thicker, one of them has different facial hair, one of them is you know what I'm saying, though. They're like, for a long time twins look the same, and then they don't so much anymore.
I agree with that. Like adult twins, they look the same, but you can tell which one is which one's which.
Like, you saw Three Identical Strangers.
I still haven't seen it, but I'm seeing the trailer.
Very good. And as you know, through their teenage years, all the pictures of them, you're like, fuck, they might as well be the same person. But today, when they're all being interviewed, it's very clear that they're different people.
And my thing is, so I've actually known, which I always thought was weird. Like I've known brothers personally who've like slept with the same woman at the same time, which I think is fucking weird. As someone with brothers, I'm like, that's weird.
So weird.
Like that is weird. I do not know what my brother's penis looks like, and I'm very happy at that fact. Like I have no idea. I don't want to. It's just weird that people do stuff like that. Not that this is what they did, but I'm just saying it's fucking people are terrible. So
They
it's
are
weird.
And the second the nut sacks touch each other, it's incest. I don't care how you try to justify it.
So I saw once in a porn something that like shook me to my core.
You're fucking shook.
Yeah, like so there's these dudes, they're already like deeping a chick, which is already a little much. And then they both pull out, and one of the dude like wraps his hand around both of them, both of their dicks, and shoves them both into the same hole. I'm like, you guys like just jerked each other off. It was one of those things. I'm like, that's to each their own, but Holy shit, man. That's
That's
some
the
next
line.
level. That's way too much.
It's fucking weird, dude. Totally kind of separate tangent, but I remember like I think it was 2 years ago, maybe it was 3 years ago, that Pornhub's biggest searches were like incest or like stepsister, stepmom, stepdaughter. It's like, you fucking weirdos. Like what? And you know, or I at least know, I have enough sense to know they're all porn actors and actresses. The chances of them actually being related isn't near as good. But the fact that they're baiting people in with that as the title, it just shows like we're just a depraved group of like humans are just kind of dirtbags.
I saw a video of these were actual twins, these two girls. Like it was clear as day. 100% were twins. They were the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
And they went down on each other and it was
Oh,
not hot. It was actually
no.
disgusting. I was
That
like,
is
that's
disgusting.
not attractive. That is like fucking gross. Like I get that there's some people who might be into it, but that's fucking gross.
Yeah, somebody actually said the other day, I commented on something, I think it was on YouTube, and they were like, people aren't terrible. People have a great capacity for good as well. And I was like, yeah, I hope that people don't take it 100% literally. It is a little hyperbolic. People collectively can do some pretty awful shit, but we also do have the capability of doing some profoundly good things. And I replied something similar to that. I'm paraphrasing, but he sent me a comment back and I thought it was pretty poignant. He was like, just remember that when we do good, we made a choice because our base instincts are not the best.
Yeah, no, we're animals. And it's funny because even though the show's called People Are Terrible, I'm one of those people who doesn't think the human species is bad.
No.
But first, I thought you were going to say you put a comment on Pornhub, and I was very excited where the story was going to go. And like, I was online, and I was commenting, and I was like, oh, you're one of those guys who's underneath the comment section having a full conversation.
Isn't that weird? Like you go
Fucking
and
weird.
be a part of the Pornhub community.
Or like even the people like who watch porn with their boys. I think that's weird to me too. Like,
The first time I saw porn was with my boys.
were you like a teenager?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, I'm talking like, I mean, I didn't. First time I saw porn was an old VHS tape that I found stashed that I watched.
Uh-huh.
But like, I know people who were like 20 and they're like, yeah, man, we're gonna go watch porn tonight. And I'm like, why?
What?
Like, why? You should
No
watch it in
shit.
shame and cry after like a
Yeah,
normal person.
yeah, yeah. So true, so true. Shut it off and feel guilty about it
Feel
afterwards.
guilty. Part
Yeah.
of you should die inside.
It's so funny. Remember the RV story or the little camper story with all the porn plastered to the walls I told you
Yeah.
about? Apparently that's a thing, dude. I was watching Screen Junkies News the other day, and the guy Joe Starr, who's one of the commentators on it, he was talking about the first time he ever saw porn. It was in the woods, and it was kind of set up like one of those vision boards where like somebody had taken all of their favorite pictures out of it and put them together on like a fucking science fair collage or something like that, so that they had it
Could
all
you
right
ever
there in front of them.
could you ever imagine actually sitting down and cutting pictures out of a porn mag?
Yeah, if I was a
Like
serial
that's
killer.
yeah, exactly. So then you got your glue stick, you're like bored, you're ready to go. It's fucking weird.
And just debating on which ones you should put next to each other. Like, I just want it to flow. I want it to be a good composition, so we can't be having two brunettes next to each other.
Speaking of serial killer stuff, I have a serial killer story because apparently this are. So I got up the other day and my wife was
Murdered
still
someone.
my wife was still sleeping and the lights were off and I was naked and I was like, I need to work out because I get my workout morning in the morning. So I literally like worked out in the nude and I was like, this is the most serial killer thing I've ever fucking done in my life.
That's some Patrick Bateman shit.
It's pretty terrifying. I'm like, and it's not a good sight because we have a mirror in our living room. I was like, this is not attractive. I actually stopped halfway through. I was like, I can't do this.
She wakes up and comes in, and the first thing she sees in the morning is your butthole. Like, oh no!
And so, well, the thing is, I have a kettlebell, and you know, kettlebells, you're like lifting and swinging. And it's just like, it was fucking terrifying.
Oh shit. Skrillex dubstep could protect against mosquitoes. Skrillex released Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites back in 2010 when it peaked at number 77 in the UK's. I'm surprised it only made it to 77 as big as he was back then, but a study has found a track by Skrillex, the electronic artist known for his dubstep music, could be an effective way to protect against mosquitoes. Pretty crazy, right?
I just think of the Key and Peele sketch where they're listening to dubstep. That's what pops in my head immediately.
No, I don't think I've seen it. It's
When
good.
you haven't seen it, it's amazing. So they're like cleaning this guy's house, and he's like moving out or something. And every time dubstep turns on, they're like, oh, start raging and throwing shit, and like blood starts coming out of their nose.
Did you ever get
It's pretty
into
amazing.
it?
So I think dubstep's kind of cool for like movies. I think it's actually kind of cool music. I think sometimes when hip hop uses dubstep element, it's kind of cool. It's something I could like listen to.
Yeah, I like
Like,
LFO, that low frequency oscillation, which is a real popular just kind of sound in that genre of music. And interestingly enough, it's that has the direct effect on these insects. It says insect and disease scientists from around the world played the electronic music to yellow fever mosquitoes to investigate the effects. The team said sound and its reception are crucial for reproduction, survival, and population maintenance for many animals, not just mosquitoes, but in insects, low frequency vibrations, which again, that's that LFO sound, facilitates sexual interactions, whereas noise disrupts the perception of signals and conspecifics, which means members of the same species and host. So by playing this certain frequencies that are very low and very high, which Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites has a lot of dynamic range in it, and it was chosen specifically to see whether or not electronic music would be an effective way of repelling insects. And not only does it keep them away, but it also prevents them from reproducing. They don't have as much sex when they're listening to dubstep.
That's in a world where I could eliminate mosquitoes, but I have to listen to dubstep constantly. I think I'd take my chances with malaria.
I'm just kind of wondering, is that why millennials are having less sex in general? Is too much fucking dubstep music?
They're just like, I can't.
I don't know
need to
what
stop.
it is. Yeah. All of a sudden, sex doesn't seem that appealing to me anymore.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's all those low frequencies.
No shit. And we in Florida definitely have a lot of mosquitoes. You got any other headlines?
That's it for me.
Well, good. Then that transitions very nicely because, yeah, we have some mosquitoes here in Florida, the big ones. The big ones, and they tear you up in certain times of year, like right after it rains in the summertime and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, maybe we just need to start playing dubstep. Like, it would be cool if there was almost like a dog whistle style of dubstep where you didn't actually have to listen to it, but like the effects were still there.
Yeah, I wish there was a whole type of dubstep that you didn't have to listen to.
Giant mosquitoes. Giant mosquitoes are not the only thing that you have to worry about in Florida because just over the weekend, this was Sunday, April 7th. Oh, okay, it was updated today, so this happened yesterday. A record 17-foot python with 73 developing eggs was caught by researchers in Florida.
How big? 75 feet?
No, 17 feet long and weighed 140 pounds. It's the largest ever seen in the area, according to the Facebook page. And there are 4 men holding this gigantic behemoth of a python next to each other. They found it, I'd imagine, down in the Everglades, a Big Cypress National Park preserve. So they found it using a new approach where researchers track male pythons by using radio transmitters, and this helps them locate the breeding females. So they follow the males to the females, and that's where they found this gigantic snake. And you and I have talked about this before. You want to take a wild guess as to kind of how something like this would happen?
The giant snake, was this those super snake hybrid ones?
No, we did talk
Okay.
a little bit about those. This is another invasive species. There is not any fucking pythons in Florida. Not supposed to be. But sometime along the way, either they got loose or they were let go by pet owners. And now we have hundreds and hundreds of Burmese pythons and boa constrictors and all that shit here in Florida.
Have you ever owned a reptile of any sort?
No, I have
or a
not.
snake or anything?
No,
Okay,
my
I
best
didn't
friend
know
Dan
either.
had a ball python, and I'd hang out with it. The fucking thing's name was Teresa, which I just thought was hilarious. Like,
That's pretty good.
that's a good snake name, Dan. He named it when he was a kid, but anyways, he had it for a while. What about you? You a reptile owner?
No, fuck no. Oh no, I had a turtle when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, we
That's
talked about that.
yeah, that's that were kept outside. The one that broke its arm.
Uh
Um,
huh.
but no, I've always found the snake people like we've all had a friend who we've gone to their house, and they have a snake, and we're usually one of their few friends. You know,
Yeah, dude. I don't mind the idea of owning a snake near as much as I mind the idea of having to feed it like little baby pinky mice.
I thought that was cool when I was like a 12 or 10-year-old boy. You know, I was like, oh, cool, and then I don't know, it's just weird.
It's
My
yeah,
friend used to have them frozen in his freezer, like just all these dead mice
yeah,
right
exactly.
next to his food.
Yeah, exactly. They package them like I don't know any other sort of like animal food. They're just like a bunch of little baby. Oh, they're not fetuses. They're like so newborn though. They're so like pink and hairless, and there's just like this big freezer bag full of them.
Yeah,
So fucking gross.
they're like Vienna sausages with legs.
Did you ever
That's what
eat
they look like.
one?
No,
Did you ever take a
I
bite of
should have
one?
though.
Yeah.
I would try it. If there was a chef who was like, I know how to cook these little pinkies, I'd be like, cool, I'll try it.
I'll fucks with it. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I never tried one either. Like, let's see. I don't know. I don't get what snakes see in these things. I'm gonna have to take a bite out of it to find out.
Yeah, I've eaten bugs and I've eaten shit like that, but never a rat.
Crickets,
Yeah, I've eaten crickets, caterpillars,
ants.
spiders.
Oh, I've never eaten
Ants. I have had
spiders.
ants. I
Most
had a
of the
tarantula.
for real.
Yeah, it was awesome. Actually, it tasted really good. It tasted like caramel corn.
My buddy Ray ate one. He was doing the Extra Life live stream one year, which is like gaming for charity. Basically, every bit of proceeds that they make go for that. And one of his stretch goals was if I make X amount of dollars, I'll eat a tarantula, not a live tarantula, obviously, like a freeze dried tarantula. Same deal with you, right? It wasn't like a fresh tarantula.
I don't know. It was already prepared, so I don't know. It was it was actually cooked at a place. They like
Ah,
threw it in a wok and they threw like sugar in there and like it caramelized and it tasted like caramel corn almost.
we were talking about a minute ago how every different animal in an ecosystem has great impact, and when you introduce foreign invasive species into a habitat, it can create substantial problems. And the python research done at Big Cypress is focused on controlling this invasive species because it's believed to have entered the area when pet snakes escaped or were released from their homes. Pythons pose a significant threat to native wildlife, and it doesn't specifically say what part of wildlife that it does affect. But yeah, it's so weird that this state in particular is able to host so many animals that are not native to them. I was wondering, and I don't know if you do know without having to look it up, but when you lived in New Mexico or now that you live in Colorado, are you aware of any species that is inhabited there that doesn't belong there?
Not an animal, but tumbleweeds is like a staple of the Southwest, and they're Russian. They're a Russian plant. They should not be in America.
Is that right?
Yeah. So
Holy shit.
sometime someone brought some seeds over, and they are awful. Like you will see a chain link fence, and they're 5 feet high, piled up from blowing into it, and that is not a native plant to the desert.
That's fascinating because it's such a staple of Western movies and old
Mm.
Americana. So I guess it must have come back. I was ignorant to the point I didn't realize that tumbleweeds were a specific kind of plant. I just figured it was like a accumulation of other plants that was just kind of rolling down the way. That's crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm looking at list of invasive species in New Mexico, and it's bringing up a bunch of plant species. Let's see.
Let's see Colorado. I'm gonna Google now because you got me kind of curious. Because I'm sure out here we have a lot more wildlife in Colorado than we do in New Mexico. Invasive species. in Florida was the first thing that popped up.
Yeah, of course, and it's crazy, man. There are really so many. Another big thing is when people ship over bananas and other produce from tropical areas, there will be spiders inside the things that have been feeding on the fruits, and once they get off the boat and out of the cargo into Florida, they will just uncontrollably reproduce. So yeah, it's weird. It is definitely a phenomenon, but I think a big reason why we're able to have so many invasive species is because they're imported from tropical areas, and we're the most tropical or subtropical climate anywhere in the country. So it's just wet and lots of lush vegetation.
Yeah, it seems like a breeding ground for everything out there. So I was looking, the only thing I really see that's interesting in Colorado is the freshwater mussel. Mussels are not native to here, but apparently we have them in Colorado, and then a bunch of bugs and a northern pike, but that's it.
Yeah, I'm looking at that as well. There's the mussel. There's what looks like, it's called an emerald ash borer. It's this very vibrant green insect. The common starling, which is a bird, and then yeah, several different plants, which seems to be a pretty big overarching thing through a lot of states. But yeah, that's interesting. I not super familiar with a lot of how that stuff works, and I think it'd be a kind of cool thing to dive a little bit deeper into sometime. But
Ooh,
yeah.
We got a future topic.
Yes, sir. I'm sure that will really turn out our fan base.
We'll say what all we have to do is figure out how to put sex in the title.
Yeah.
So we just gotta go. What invasive species would you have sex with?
What invasive species would you invade?
Yeah, as I noticed, anytime we have any topic of sex, we get more views.
Yeah, this last podcast didn't do horrible.
No, did you hear this Florida story? A Florida man arrested for burglary only minutes after leaving jail.
That's some Grand Theft Auto shit, isn't it?
Yeah, like literally, he just leaves. Casey Lewis, 37, was booked on charges of burglary, grand larceny, and possession of stolen property after police say he burglarized cars in a jail parking lot. So this motherfucker didn't even make it out of the parking lot, and he was like,
and he was arrested for grand theft.
Yes, and so this is literally Grand Theft Auto. Like you're like, man, I have this mission across town. Oh, there's a cop car right here.
I'm just going to go ahead and take that real quick.
What was the game plan behind this? Do you really think he thought he was going to get away busting into cars in the jail parking lot?
Man, I called my mom, but she said she wasn't picking me up from jail anymore.
It's probably something like that. That's probably what it was.
He's 37 years old, man. That's hard living. This was in St. Lucie County. I'm not exactly sure where that was, but he's arrested Thursday morning and booked for theft. Oh man. At first I thought that burglarizing a car, and this was just stupid on my part, but I thought he had stolen a car, but that's Grand Theft Auto.
I think he just like broke into a car, right?
Yeah, he was trying to, maybe he was attempting to steal the car. Maybe he was trying to get change out of it to call a cab or something. I don't know.
Maybe he saw a box of cigarettes and he's like, I need to smoke.
Yeah. And they said he was rebooked into jail and now faces more charges. However, the sheriff's office said that he was released based on bond again. So this motherfucker couldn't afford a car ride home, but somehow he's been bailed out of jail again. Who do you think bailed him out?
His mom. That's probably who it was.
Mommy. That's exactly who it was. What an idiot. And that's why people don't learn, man. They got these enabling ass parents. I'm totally making this part up. I don't know this to be true. I'm just basing it on my personal experience and people that I've seen. And I'm sure the mom is like, he's a good boy. It's like, lady, he's 37 years old. He's a convicted fucking felon. He's just misunderstood. I think this time he'll do right.
I agree. Enablers are so bad. I've seen so many people in and out of jail, and they're like, he's really a good guy. I'm like, nah, he isn't. He beat the fuck out of his last wife and then robbed a liquor store. Like, he's not a good guy.
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of that. It's almost like accepted within the family.
And I, know, I'll never understand a mother's love. I get it. I've never carried and incubated a human inside me. I'm sure it's hard to admit that thing that you made is a fucking monster, but it does happen, and it's a shame. Not that this guy's a monster. I don't want to overstate it. He's just a piece of shit. Not a not an upstanding member of society. Michael Casey Lewis. Yeah, definitely an idiot. Definitely an idiot. Okay, what about this one? Don't you do that to me. Okay. Thong-wearing Florida man arrested while building shed with garbage on stranger's property.
Oh, okay. Not on his own property.
Hey, dude, why would you build a shed on your own property?
So I'm like, again, this is funny and weird. But then the fact that he's building on someone else's property that's gold.
It's so weird. In Martin County, Florida, a man wearing a thong was all a Florida homeowner needed to see to call Martin County Sheriff's Office last month. They got there and arrested 31-year-old George Blanken on March 12th. An arrest report reviewed by TC Palm said the homeowner saw him building a shed and throwing chairs. The trespasser was wearing a swimsuit and then a thong. The report says, responding deputies say they found the man on the property who was not wearing a shirt or shorts, and he was covered with sand as if he'd just been on the beach. The man was arrested but refused to identify himself until they got to the sheriff's office and fingerprinted him to find out that he was indeed Blanken. He stated that he was an artist making things from garbage, and he's facing charges for giving a false name and obstruction without violence.
This reminds me of Crazy Carol. I grew up, and next to us, there was this house. It was fucking terrifying. I think this lady actually did have some mental issues. But when you're a kid, it was literally like that creepy house. And she had this little tiny trailer, not like I grew up in a trailer, like an actual like mobile home. I'm talking like a camping trailer.
Right.
And she had a tree that she just ripped all the branches off, painted the entire tree white, and then put crosses all over it.
Oh, creepy.
Yeah, it was terrifying. And then my mom, we were too young to understand, but I think my mom was always nice to her because it was obviously something was wrong with her. And she used to every single time go to my mom, "Oh, your English is getting better. Oh, you speak such good English now." My mom is the whitest fucking person.
I was about to say, like, what?
Yeah, like my dad's the Spanish one. My mom is blonde hair, white woman. I have no idea. Every single time we saw her, she'd be like, "You speak good English now."
Did you call her Crazy Carol? Did the parents call her Crazy Carol? Was she known in the neighborhood as Crazy Carol?
So it was like a neighborhood thing because she was like a 70-year-old woman, who was just insane. Well, in my head, she was 70. I was a little kid. She could have been like 40.
Like as old as I am now, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But in my head, she was old. She was
ancient.
Crazy Carol.
So that's funny. Side story. When I grew up. I grew up in Navarre, but I used to live on the Alphabet Streets over here in Pensacola, which not exactly the fancy side of town. It was the hood basically. My best friends' name were Mario and Muffin. They were brothers, and obviously little black kids in the neighborhood. Mario and Muffin. Yeah. I don't think it was his
birth name.
I don't know. I was too young to remember, but they were Mario and Muffin. Anyways, I say all that to say that we would, on the weekends when we saved up change, we would go see the Fudge Lady. And the Fudge Lady lived up the block, like a couple streets away. We were on K Street. She was on like L Street or something like that. And she sold fudge, just delicious fudge, out of her house. You just go knock on the front door and she'd sell you fudge. And then she had these things called frozen tongues. And what frozen tongues were, they were like little plastic 16-ounce cups with like maybe 2 ounces of frozen Kool-Aid in the bottom of them. And all the neighborhood kids would go over there to see the Fudge Lady and to get frozen tongues and brownie and fudge. And it was like super cool, but I've never seen somebody like actually run like a fucking bakery or a confection store out of their house.
That's the thing I love about the hood, that like as much as I bitch about the hood and so happy I'm no longer there, it's the weird shit like that, like growing up and being like, hey, that person sells fucking fudge out of their house.
Yeah, get the best fudge in the neighborhood over there.
Like,
but
that's
this
the shit
guy, like, how do they figure he was building a shed? Like, I mean, if you're making a trash pile, that's a little bit different than making a shed. Just throwing chairs and garbage on top of each other. I don't know where the idea that he was building a shed came from.
Do you think he had like a hammer and nails? It was like nailing shit together? Or was he just
It says they saw him building a shed and throwing chairs. So maybe he was. Maybe he was out there doing carpentry. If he was covered in sand and was in a fucking thong, he literally just came from the beach and he was hammered and decided that it was probably time to, I guess, get a place of his own in somebody else's backyard.
He's like, my heart needs to come out right now.
Hey, man, when inspiration strikes, you don't deny it.
You know, oh, man. People are fucking weird.
That is a funny
can't deal with
story. This guy, 31 years old, he definitely looks like somebody I could have went to school with. But, yeah.
Is he like a rough 30? I picture him a rough 30.
He looks like a surfer, man. It's
really?
interesting. Yeah, maybe he had some sort of mental break, but I'm imagining this close to spring break. Well, yeah, you shouldn't be celebrating spring break when you're 31 years old. Let's be clear about that. But this close to like party season in Florida, I'm pretty sure that's what happened. Yikes. So I guess that's about all I've got as far as news headlines. You want to jump into mine or you want to jump into yours first?
I think yours is more current. Let's do yours.
Okay, so what we're going to talk about right now is something that I'm not going to lie, bro. I don't know why. I do not know why. I can't really defend it. I got a little bit triggered by the tweet that you posted. I don't know if you picked up on that, but
I could tell.
So a couple of I guess about a week ago, it kind of came out. A woman made allegations about Joe Biden, basically saying that he inappropriately touched her, rubbed her shoulders, leaned in, sniffed her hair, and then kissed her on the back of the head. She said it made her feel mortified, and she just wanted to get up on stage so that she could get away from him. If you are familiar with Joe Biden and you're familiar with the internet, then you have no doubt seen people lampoon Joe Biden for quite some time because of his tactile, hands-on approach to being a politician and the way that he interacts with people. He's an older dude.
Creepy Uncle Joe since he was in office.
Yeah. He's, he's, I think 76 years old, maybe 75, something like that. And, obviously the political climate has changed quite a bit over the past couple of years. There's been a lot of discussion about the way that, men and women interact, and specifically about the way that men interact with women. So I don't have the tweet open in front of me, but, and you have a good point, and I want to dive into this, but you basically said something along the lines of, I'm sick of, let me pull it up real quick.
Do you know what it was? Exactly what it was.
Please.
Yeah. So this guy, somebody tweeted out, and it was like, Joe Biden did what? And it was pictures of Trump doing sexually suggestive stuff, like being too creepy with women. And I was like, this is a weird defense of like, well, Trump did it, so it's okay if Biden did it. Now, the right has also used this defense, first of all. They used it with Trump in the first place. They're like, well, Clinton's had sexual assault allegations, so it's fine if Trump does. And I just hate that way of thinking.
And on that note, you are 100% right. To say if person A did it, then it's okay for person B to do it. Or better yet, I don't care that person A did it because person B did it. That's a really flawed logic. My point of contention and what I think bothered me, like just emotionally right off the bat, is I'm thinking like, it's not the same thing. I don't feel like what Joe Biden did is the same as what Trump did. Where do you weigh in on that part?
I would 100% agree with you. I think we're all actually on the same page. And that being said, literally later that day, someone was like, should Joe Biden even be able to run for office? And I was like, absolutely. First of all, these are just allegations. Second of all, he didn't, from what I can gather, actually physically assault anyone. He was creepy as fuck.
Inappropriate. And I agree with that. I think that what he has done and that even up till recently is it's not appropriate because everybody has different boundaries, right? So if it's somebody you know and you're consoling them as one of, okay, so basically three women, maybe five at this point, I'm not exactly sure, have all come out and said that Joe Biden made them feel uncomfortable. Not any of these women claim that he sexually harassed them or sexually assaulted them. However, they did feel that he was crossing personal boundaries, which people's personal boundaries are different. I am comfortable with hugging, with people hugging me. I come from that kind of family. I when I see my boys, it's one hand, clasp their hand up top, other hand goes around their shoulder. We bring it in to where we're touching our fist into each other's chest. It's like a half hug. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And that's how I am too. Like I grew up that way, and I'll see my female friends. I'll give them a kiss on the side of the head, but I
Right.
wouldn't do it to a stranger. But
Right.
like, and I'm some of my friends, especially ones from the East Coast, from like New York, they're very like they'll like lean on you like this while you're hanging out.
Yeah.
Like they're just that sort of way. They're just that type of people. I'm not quite that far, but I actually agree with you. I think you and me actually, despite the tweet, probably agree more than you realize we do.
And I figured we did. I think it
This
was
is why Twitter's
just
the worst.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Me and you were able to further the discussion later on and not just leave it at that thing with a stranger. I hadn't seen that sentiment, and I think that's what threw me off. You were talking about something very specific. You were responding to one tweet. And what I took it as, and again, this is, I think goes along with this idea of tribalism. What I felt is that you were saying that the left is saying that it's okay for Joe Biden to do this, and that's not what you were saying.
No, I was saying this guy is saying it's okay for Joe
Correct.
Biden to do it because Trump did creepy things.
Correct.
And I don't think there's the left. I mean, I do think the left forgives sexual assault straight up when it's their own, just like I think the right does too.
I
mean,
think that's unfair, though, and this kind of goes to my idea of somebody on the left may.
Yes, I would agree
Other
with that.
people on the left may not. And I do find it's fascinating because I find that it's a lot of the liberals and a lot of people that are on the same, like liberals and Democrats will cannibalize ourselves by demonizing other again, very generally speaking, but instead of keeping it close to the vest and saying, hey, he's one of our own, let's overlook the slight misconduct so that we can get this motherfucker into office, we are a lot of times liberals will be the first to do the finger wagging and the virtue signaling and be like, this person is not good because blank, they're not good enough for my standards. And Biden is clearly the front runner right now of the Democratic Party. And I don't know who came out and made this allegation. I'd assume the woman that did it was probably a Democrat.
I would assume so, but I also let's not pretend that there are not politics involved. This is a front runner, and stuff's going to come out. Just like love or hate Trump, Trump wasn't seen as this overwhelmingly racist, awful human. The media loved Trump until he went against the Democrats because that's politics. I'm not even like casting judgment. That's politics.
Yeah.
And Biden already said, just a heads up, Biden's like, more's going to come out. Like Biden came out like ahead of it. Like, oh yeah, more's coming out.
Did he?
Yeah. They asked him, they're like, if you run for president, do you think more will come out? He's like, oh, I guarantee it.
Oh, yeah, okay. And maybe that's even intellectual, or maybe just accepting that where we're at with politics right now, that there are inevitably going to be more people that come out. And, you know, a lot of this has been tied to the Me Too movement, and I think that obviously that conversation was opened up as a result of this, but that's where my thing of this false equivalency comes from, is 5 women saying Joe Biden made them uncomfortable. Well, you know what? Like, sitting the wrong way in my chair makes me uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that, you get what I'm saying. It's like a lot of things make people uncomfortable. And
it's kind of I was gonna say, it's kind of the conversation we had about Me Too in general, where someone awkwardly giving a back rub is creepy. Someone walking up and grabbing a boob is assault. Someone holding someone down and raping them. These are all bad things, but they are different.
Different levels.
They're not. There's no fault. There is a false equivalency. If
Correct.
you throw them all in the same.
And
I agree with that.
and that's kind of what my thing I feel, and I don't think I'm demonizing Donald Trump because of his political affiliation as much as just the way that he was so flagrantly just out in the open about, if I'm attracted to a woman, I can't help it. I just bring him in and kiss him, and the things that he said on Howard Stern, which these things were years ago. And I don't mean to just like harp on something that's already been out there in the open. And when he released a statement, it was basically like, all these women are liars. They are all going to get sued when this is said and done, versus Joe Biden saying, I never intended on doing anything creepy, but I'm willing to listen and be receptive to it. Obviously, that's political, but at the same time, it feels like he wants to be an ally. He was just oblivious to it.
There is the kind of where I do think he is oblivious, but I think he is a victim of his own rhetoric. And what I mean by that is he's very much been one of the believe all women. If a woman says something, you kind of shut up and listen to it. The intent doesn't really matter. He's been one of those people. So I actually think he's kind of a victim of it, but he did do the proper thing. And I give him credit for this, where he stuck by his ideology and was like, hey, I didn't intend to, but I'm sorry because, apparently that's how I made him feel. And that's what matters. So I do think he stuck to his principles in that way.
That's another whole thing that I think the discussion, I don't think there's a really a general consensus on it yet. I've heard several women come out and defend Joe Biden. I've also heard several women come out and say basically there's a difference between intent and the way that it's received. And I think that's an interesting conversation. Does intent matter?
100% it matters.
I agree.
Because I'm telling you right now, I won't even say all men. I'll say every person on this planet has been creepy to someone at some point. It has happened. Now that being said, this Biden thing is nothing new to me. I've seen the video years ago of him awkwardly with these little girls. It's very weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like, to a point where if that was my child, I would like go, dude, get your fucking hands off my kid.
That
like,
one video where it seems like he might be kind of grinding on the little girl. Is that the one you're talking about?
There's like 14 little girls, like back to back. There's like a super cut.
There was one in particular that I saw that was a little bit upsetting, and it was like he was kind of holding a little girl in front of him, and he kind of kept positioning himself to where this,
or the one where he tries to kiss the girl like 5 times
and she pulls away. Yeah. I will say with that case, it's pretty clear cut. With the idea of Biden grinding himself against that girl, forced perspective in video, it will tell a story that may or may not be true. Like, if you and I are standing 3 feet apart from each other, shoulder to shoulder, it's easy to tell. If you and I were standing 2 feet apart from each other and you were slightly in front of me, there's no clear way of knowing the distance between us. Do you get what I'm saying?
I agree. And here's my thing is, even with those kids that I would have said something with, from what I could tell, if it was what the video in fact looked like, I really don't think, and this could come out, but I don't think like Biden's a child molester. I just don't. I really, really don't. I think he's an old guy from a different time. And some of this can even apply to Trump. He's an old guy from a different time.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, what Trump did is more egregious, just like what Clinton did is more egregious. These are two examples that I don't think Biden is either one. These are two examples on the left and the right that I don't personally feel like Biden's either one of those. But it's just, I think we have to take into account, I think he's an old guy. It's kind of like when they said, I don't know if you remember the story of George Bush Sr., where he was like, he was an old man right before he died, and he apparently touched a girl's butt. I'm like, this dude's like has dementia. He's losing his mind. Like, let's not smear this dude's entire life because of this one incident where he's obviously a man who's not all there anymore. Like, he's an old elderly man. And I mean, I don't think Biden's where George Bush Sr. was by any stretch,
But I understand where you're coming from.
to me, these two examples are more similar: the George Bush Senior and the Biden. I am seeing some people who I do think it is politically motivated, who are 100% like he shouldn't even be allowed to run. I think the reverse of this is true. I think if you're supporting Donald Trump, then you should absolutely have no problem with Biden running.
Good
You
point.
know, it's kind of hypocritical if I were to say, which I'm not a big Trump guy. And with a Trump Biden show off, I don't know who I would vote for, but I'll tell you what, if a person on the left is going to win, Biden's not that hardline left. He's a lot more centrist to me. You
And
know,
and I think that's a good thing.
me too.
And so then, yeah, and that is that. I think that we're kind of both in the same camp about that. If you want to help politics, if you want to help policy, being able to appeal to both sides is so important. And I know a lot of people, and we've even seen this on Twitter, that don't like the idea of having career politicians. I get it. If there was one positive to that, it's that they know these people on a personal level, other politicians, and that maybe because of those people's relationships that they are able to help sway the other side. However, you're also running the risk of nepotism, corruption, keeping it all in within this system and all of those kind of things. So it is a bit of a double-edged sword, but and you know, it's not all about this to me. It's not so much about the comparisons between Trump and Biden because, you know, as I mentioned, I do think that they're different things, but I feel like we're at this pivotal time where Joe Biden just needs to lean into the fact that he understands that what he did wasn't appropriate. Instead of trying to normalize it and justify it, he probably just needs to come out and say, yo, I understand now that things are different and I'm going to try my hardest to live by the new norm, even though I think that the traditional idea of a politician is shaking hands, kissing babies, hugging supporters, and all of those kind of things. And if you do it to 10 people and 8 of them respond extremely positively to it and it makes their day, and then 2 people are extremely upset and bothered by it, whose problem is it? Well, it's the problem of the person who perpetuated it, obviously, because we don't know people's personal boundaries. Some people, like my friend Vanessa at work, she don't want to be fucking touched. She doesn't want to be hugged. And I may not understand that as much because I do like human connection, but it doesn't make her wrong. It doesn't make her bad.
So I actually agree with what you say, but I also think there is some personal accountability on the person being touched. Now, I get with power structures, it's a lot harder to vocalize, but if someone's doing something to me that I don't like, and it's obviously that they don't realize I don't like it or that they're not intending to make me uncomfortable, there is some accountability on my shoulders to
Correct.
vocalize that it makes me uncomfortable, you know?
And not necessarily 10 years after the fact or 5 years after the fact when it could so well be politically motivated. I just, I read an article the other day that was basically like, you know, the Democratic Party will cannibalize ourselves by being so divisive within our own party. And just this idea, I believe that we all have this facade of morality that we may not necessarily all apply to our own lives.
Oh, absolutely. We're all complex human beings, and you see it on the right too, specifically with the religious right. And I draw the comparison time and time again. The progressive left and the religious right are the same people arguing for the same things, just for totally different reasons.
Yep.
They're always freaking out, but and they both to me come off equally hypocritical because they all say these things because they want to sound so virtuous, and none of them live up to this unattainable standard. Now, that being said, not sexually assaulting someone obviously is an attainable standard.
Yes,
you know?
correct.
But I guarantee you, I've made a woman feel uncomfortable. Guarantee you, I've made a man feel uncomfortable. I know a man's made me, and a woman's made me feel uncomfortable. But these people. But I've also had a woman like walk up and grab my penis. Like that's a different issue than the person who, leaned on me, or a woman who had a crush on me and I was like, wasn't filling her back. Those are two different things. And it's just did you see his comments though? That he's already starting to get roasted on the left for in that, I forgot what event it was, but where he hugged a guy and then he said, "Don't worry, I asked him for permission," and the room laughed.
Oh, I haven't. No, no.
And then he hugs a kid and leans into the mic and goes, "Don't worry, I also asked him." And the room laughed, which I didn't have a problem with it. Like, I was like, okay, he's made a joke out of the situation. And now, speaking to the left will cannibalize themselves. Who's attacking him? It's actually not the right on this one. It's his quote unquote base.
Yeah.
Because they're like, you're turning rape and sexual assault into a joke. And you're like, dude, he tried to break the tension. Like,
it was self-deprecating. It's what you would think to do is, and again, it comes down to that idea. If you're winning over the populace, then fuck these keyboard warriors who want to divide us. And it creates this narrative that liberals are this way. It's the minority. It's this small group of just self-loathing assholes who have nothing better to do than to try to vilify this old dude who, yeah, it's too much. I can think of examples of even girls. They hug too long. I'll hug you, but I don't want to embrace you for 10 seconds. Give me some fucking space. So it's that thing. It's like I as an affectionate person, I'm cool with it, but even then there's still a line. But I would never say that those girls did anything wrong. It's just who they are, right?
You bring a girl up, pops in my head right away. There's this girl who I won't even put how I know her, so I don't put her on blast. But she always hugs, and she has large boobs, and she definitely like pushes her chest into people. When she does it, and she lingers. And she doesn't just do it with me. It's obvious. I don't know if it's intentional or not, or she maybe just has big boobs and they're in the way. I don't really know. But I would never make the accusation that there's a motivation behind it, because I don't know what it is. Her motivation is probably, Caleb's a nice guy and I want to give him a hug.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably all it is. But I could really read into this and make it into something. It might be that thing. It might not have anything to do with that. And I've known people who will like touch like your leg, men and women. And I'm like, ooh, don't touch my leg. But they don't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
what do you think about Nancy Pelosi and her statement about the straight arm club?
Oh, I didn't hear about this.
So the straight arm club basically means if you don't know somebody and you are meeting them for the first time, you shake their hand at arm's length, and that's it.
I think I don't know if that's the society I personally want to live in, where everyone's so cold that we cannot ever get close to each other personally.
Yeah, I fall on the other side of it. If you don't know somebody, it just seems like the safe route to take. Like I would implement it into my own life, especially if I were in a public sphere. Now, if I had a connection with that person, and then the next time I saw him, maybe we had earned that hug. It seems really weird to have to ask for consent to embrace a fellow human.
And I think it's situational too. Like at a job, yeah, you probably should just handshake. But the other night, I went out downtown. I met my friend, and I met his girlfriend for the first time. I hugged her.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give her a handshake.
As you should.
I'm like, this is your, yeah. Yeah. So I think it's situational. My first interaction with her was literally exchanging names and a hug.
But because of your connection to her boyfriend, it's like, if you're like me, it's like you are part of the family at this point. If you are my boy's significant other, then you are part of the family at this point,
Yep.
And that's just always the way that I see things personally. And I agree. I don't want to live in a world where things are so black and white and cut and dry, and it feels like, and you and I have talked about the millennials having less sex and all of these things, and I fear that putting up these walls, these rules of how we should engage in public, it robs us of our individuality, and it creates this homogenization to where we're all programmed, we're socially engineered to be this certain thing that maybe we're not. And I have a problem with that as an individualist. But again, I would never want to impose my standards on somebody else. So it's a nuanced conversation.
I agree. I think I think you nailed it right there. It's very nuanced, and it is not a one size fits all application.
Well, I feel good about this. I feel like we worked through that.
Yeah, I think we actually weren't that far off from where I think we pretty much agreed. It was just I
Yeah.
was responding to a tweet, and you thought I was responding to a general ideology.
Yeah, it took me all of about 30 minutes to get where you were
Yeah.
coming from. It just it took a minute, and I think there's that says something about me. I also think it says something broader than just about me, and the way
Uh-huh.
that we receive information. And I by no means thought you were attacking me. I didn't take it that way at all, but just that tribalism, the first idea of like, hold on a second. Biden is being accused of being touchy when Trump has been accused by 36 women or some shit of sexual harassment over his career. But again, I'm not going to be the virtue signaling person. If I were to run for politics, there could be a dozen people that came out and said he was drunk at the bar and he got too close to me. He came up behind me and put his hands on my waist. One time when we were in middle school, he grabbed my boob. Like, whatever the thing is, I'm a flawed fucking human being, and I've done things I'm not proud of.
I think also too that our little exchange on Twitter speaks to something very interesting that I would like to get into conversation in the future of. I tend to lean right, you tend to lean left. I very rarely see stuff on Twitter, whether it's from you or from anyone, that I'll actually get emotional about. It's just not like, oh, very rarely angry, or like upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
I do see there is this, for better or worse, people on the right tend to be a more logical and a little more emotionally colder, which is both a positive and a negative. And I notice people on the left tend to be the more filler type.
I've always said I am an empathetic person, and when people ask me about the wall, like, I understand that yes, will definitely deter like cargo of illegal narcotics from coming through the border lines. But if I'm looking at the situation for 20 women who are trying to escape this horrible situation of whatever, or trying to get their kids out of this really crime-ridden place, it's almost like I would. It gets to be a tough situation, but I agree with you. I think that there is a level of, and not even just empathy, but a level of emotion that goes behind a lot of this political affiliation.
I would agree. I think there's actually more to do with that than probably anything of how you determine what side you fall on. It's just how you process information in the world.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, let's
Actually,
move on to something fun. Unless you want to wrap it up with something else.
Wrap it up real quick. There is a study that says that people on the left, when they write, will be more likely to write, I feel that. Like, I feel that so and so should be this way. And people on the right tend to write, I think that.
Sure.
It's interesting.
I try to be a logical person, because I do subscribe to the fact that hearts can be very misleading. That I think more problems come from emotion than from logic.
So my topic, to go right into it, is Cardi B. Now, this is old news, but this was that video that she put out. It was like on Snapchat or something, where she
I had to go straight. I had to go, oh yeah, you wanna fuck me? Yeah, let's go to this hotel. And I drop niggas up and I rob them. That's what I used to do.
there are some false equivalencies being drawn here. I see a lot of people who are like, if you're okay with this, then you should be okay with the biggest one I've seen is Bill Cosby. Okay, hold up. Like, Bill Cosby raped women. She robbed men, which is horrible. It's not on the same level as raping women. That to me is miles worse than being robbed. I'd rather be robbed than raped any day of the week.
Of course.
So that's the first thing I want to get out of the way. But the reaction that I've seen that's kind of, I find bothersome, is Justification. First of all, I think that yes, absolutely, we should forgive her as someone who's been very open with partaking in a lot of illegal activities throughout my life. I am a very changed person. The difference is I don't talk about my sad old behavior like it's still a great thing and it's completely justifiable. What I always used to do, my drug dealing, my robbing, all of that, it was awful, awful, awful behavior that no one should partake in, that should not be glamorized. And I was a bad person morally at the time. I don't really see that sentiment around Cardi B. It's almost being celebrated to me, which is really just bothered me.
It is first of all, I question the legitimacy of her claims. I mean, it's possible she's just outright fucking lying about it, right?
That's very true.
If in your experience or in your perspective, did you consider that as a viable option, or are we just taking it at face value?
I didn't think of it that way because I had the reaction when she was like, "Oh, I drugged man and robbed him." I was like, "Of course she did." She's like I've known women who've done this. Of course she did.
I wonder, and it gets real confusing. Let me see if I can pull up a little bit of the quotes. I'll go ahead and play the clip for the podcast, but just for the sake of conversation right now. In the video, she says, "I had to go strip. I had to go. Oh, yeah, you want to F me? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Why am I censoring myself? Oh, yeah, you want to fuck me? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's go back to this hotel." And I drug in us up and robbed them. That's what I used to do. All I can do now is be better for myself, my family, and my future. So in that quote herself, she did say it in a boastful way, but I don't think she was saying necessarily that it was a good thing. You and I grew up in the era of gangster rap. I'm not the person, and I will never be the person that says that entertainment causes people, especially when it comes to violent video games, to go out and act that way. But speaking to my personal experience, hip hop had a pretty profound impact on my life. And I did look up to drug dealers and hustlers. And as somebody who, I mean, I was a suburban white kid, but that said, I fucked around with a relatively rough crowd of people. I put myself in that environment, and maybe, and I don't know this to be sure, I'm sure there are a lot of factors that contributed to it, but like a lot of the death row stuff, you know, like what Tupac was saying, it spoke to me even as this white kid on a pretty profound level when No Limit came out. I remember that was like a big like Master P and a lot of like Silk the Shocker and a lot of those people. And through hip hop is a medium for storytelling. It always was. Rappers like Outkast would talk about their past and the things that they had to do to get out of the situation that they were in. You know, they're these Atlanta dudes that they were on the trap and they were doing illegal stuff so that they could, supposedly from the way that they tell the story, so that they could feed their family, support their children, and do what they had to do to get out of this negative situation. We've got rappers like Snoop Dogg, who it's almost known that he was involved in a homicide. We've got people like Diddy, who it is known that he was involved in a fucking shooting in a club in New York. So there does seem to be a little bit of a double standard. Now, granted, these couple of things, Diddy's not in the public eye like somebody like Cardi B, but hip hop has gotten away from storytelling. So now it seems like a lot of these rappers are using live streams and their social media to do the storytelling because their music doesn't so much.
I think it's a very good thing. It's very true. I never even thought of that. I think they are using social media for their storytelling rather than the art itself. And my thing is, like, I don't judge Cardi B, like I said, and I mean this, at all for what she's done in the past. And I don't even know if she defended it. I mean, I'm just more seeing the people defending her actions. Like, oh yeah, almost like glorifying it. Like, and I agree, as someone who listened to a ton of rap, who also did grow up in a bad neighborhood. So I had those elements already around me, and even made music. And if my music's out there, you can find it. I talk about some gutter shit too. Right. You know? Right. And I actually like that you're starting to see people. I used to bother me because I used to be the type of person to be like, man, I can't believe these kids. They just think it's music. They don't know what it's like to actually be in this. Like I used to be that guy. I actually think it's great that now it is kind of just becoming music. That that you will have people who I'm one of these people. I'll be listening to a song about shooting people. I ain't out on the block anymore. I don't do
Yeah.
any. I come record podcasts and go to work. And so it's kind of good that it's grown into almost like a movie medium. Like, I don't even feel like street cred's really valued the way it used to be.
100% agree.
Like it used to be, if you were from the burbs, get the fuck out of here. You can't rap.
Yeah.
Period. We don't want to hear about you. What do you know about this? And now it's like you can be a kid from the burbs who's never seen anything, and you can rap about selling drugs if you never sold drugs. But I do think it does have. I do think this art in particular, music more than movies or video game, does directly influence other people's actions.
And I don't know what it is about it. I don't know what it is particularly about that medium. Maybe it's that it hits us at a certain time and a certain age. I know that when I was between about maybe 13 and 20, give or take a little bit on both sides, that music had the most profound an effect on me. But there was this cultural element to it where maybe it was the music exclusively, or maybe it was the people that I knew that were listening to the music, a combination of both, whatever it was, that like the idea of being a hustler was very attractive to me. Like, you don't hear that in rock music, you know what I mean?
So I think rock music does have glorifications that I disagree with heavily too. I think the glorification of mental illness, drug abuse, and self-harm.
Absolutely.
And those are not good things. Like mental illness sucks. I know you and me have talked about, our bouts with whatever, whether I've never been like diagnosed, but stuff like it's not fun stuff to deal with. I think the difference why music specifically hits on a different level than a video game or a movie is in video games and movies, we wrote dialogue for characters that exist on a screen. There's this level of separation. With music, they're talking about themselves, their lives. I do this. They're not saying, I'm not rapping a song and going, this guy Jeremy went here and he did this and he sold drugs or whatever. I'm saying me. This is what I did. And so there's a self-grandization that we do, especially in hip hop, but even rock too. A lot of self-grand. But I feel like that has an effect. And Cardi B, I don't think should be personally. Okay, I won't say she should be a role model for getting out there and hustling and working. I will never knock someone's ability to get money and make successful. More power to her. She grinded. She deserves. If you want to look at her that way, great. She should be an icon. For being a moral icon, obviously.
Right. Yeah, you bring up some really good points. I never really thought about rock under that lens, but it is certainly the case. And, in both genres, there was a really horrible attitude towards women in the 80s and glam rock and hair metal and all of that kind of stuff. That objectification, I think, really started with bands like Led Zeppelin and things like that. Motley Crue with the movie The Dirt. Like, they did some pretty reprehensible things, and disrespect for women in early hip-hop, 90s hip-hop in particular, was very problematic by today's standards. There's still a bit of it out there. I think it was it Tyga that you sent me the link to? There's some guy that's disgusting, but at the same time, it's very symptomatic of that very much is emblematic of what music of the past was. Back to the Cardi B thing, this is a 3-year-old Instagram rant, so somebody went back and dug up dirt from her from years ago. It's kind of the similar as the James Gunn situation. I don't believe, I'm a cynic to the core. You know me well enough to know I will assume a person is lying until they show me until they give me a reason to trust them. I don't. You know what I mean? My default setting is, I don't fucking know you. You know what I mean? And then once I do, I'm one of the warmest and nicest people you'll ever meet. But my initial thought is, yes, people are very capable of lying and misleading you. And in a genre that has glorified and glamorized that kind of behavior for so long. I could see her trying to bump up, as you mentioned, street cred by saying it like this. It's obvious she was a stripper. There's video of it. She said that she, got out of that lifestyle because of an abusive relationship, and basically hip hop saved her life. And props to her for that. Exactly what you said. Anybody that's able to turn a bad situation into something, especially to this level, props to them. No disrespect for that. It's just really weird that she says she used to drug people, and then in her apology she said, I never claim to be a perfect or come from a perfect world with a perfect past. I always speak my own truth. I always own my shit. I'm a part of the hip hop culture where you can talk about where you came from and talk about the wrong things you had to do to get where you are. You and I have even done that a little bit on the podcast in a micro scale, you know what I mean? And not that we're on top of the world now, but that both of us are leading fairly healthy and normal lives and have become responsible as opposed to the negative things that we've done in the past. So I do, I just, for a second to say, I kind of can empathize with that. But she said, I made the choices that I did at the time because I had very limited options. Again, understood. She says, I'm blessed to have been able to rise from that, but so many women have not. Whether they were poor choices at the time, I did what I did to survive. And then she goes on to say, the men I spoke about in my life were men that I dated, that I was involved with, men that were conscious, willing, and aware. I have a past I can't change. We all do. So did she drug and rob men who were conscious and willing participants?
Yeah, that's a weird thing.
She's
that doesn't
fucking
make
lying somewhere.
Yeah,
Either the first thing was
right
a lie or the second one was a lie.
Which you're right. You bring up a good point. A lot of people, especially in hip hop, will lie. Most of hip hop now, even now, I mean, every rapper, if they really lived the lifestyle they did, they'd be mass murderers.
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Not saying there aren't people out there who catch bodies. I've seen it, know. But at the same point in time, there is currency in fabricating these stories, like you brought up, which you do bring a good point. I believe her. I don't know why, just because I've known girls who act like her, and that doesn't shock me. That's not shocking behavior.
No, and if there's one person that you could point to in hip hop culture that would do some shit like that, it would be Cardi B, 100%.
Like if Nicki Minaj said she did this, I'd be like, I don't know if I'll buy that, Nicki.
Right.
But Cardi B, yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like that's where I get hung up on it. Is she's obviously a liar. I mean, or lied. I just don't know which part of it was a lie, because it can't be both of those things. But go ahead.
I feel like she necessarily wasn't the one glamorizing it. I just see so many people almost like praising her, like, yeah, you go get that money, this. I'm like, no, like don't celebrate this stupid shit.
Yeah,
just
if she did that, props or shame on you.
If she did it,
yeah,
shame on her.
Yeah, all right. I fall on the same side with that. There's something kind of appealing to me about Johns trying to pick up prostitutes or use women for sex and then getting played. I think that I don't hate the idea of that fundamentally, but again, yeah, drugging and robbing people, two things you should never do. Though you should never drug people, you should never rob people. A combination of both of them, not the smartest thing. I think one of the big differences between this situation and a situation like Bill Cosby or a situation like Donald Trump is no dude came forward and said, Cardi B raped me. That never happened. Nobody's accused her of anything. So right now, all we have is this chick. If somebody wanted that little bit of fame, and I don't know, maybe they would be ashamed of it, but it seems like if you could come out and be that person and get your 15 minutes and potentially win a lawsuit against her or have your name attached to the same. Say it again.
So you just started to say it. I was to say, yeah, you can make money doing this.
Right.
Coming out.
And so the fact that nobody's come forward also makes me a little bit more suspicious of her comment. The real problematic thing, and the one that people are talking about a little bit less, is when she goes on to say in another video Well, here's a tweet from Amazon Alexa. The amount of people supporting Cardi B baffles me. Not only has she been incredibly transphobic, she openly admitted to drugging and robbing men. I'm all for supporting women and women of color, but this is nothing to be praised. She's no one to look up to. Apparently, she came out and said that she was getting back at a former lover or some guy, and what she did was bring him home to have a threesome, and then announced afterwards that dude had fucked a
See, now that I didn't even hear about that story. That's totally something I was unaware of until this very moment. That is way worse to me.
Oh, I say held accountable. What should happen to Cardi B? Let's say that all of this is true.
There's nothing we can do. There's no official crime being committed. This is all just hearsay. This is literally when people talk about selling drugs and rap, we can't charge them for that because we don't know if it's actual crime has ever even been committed.
Yeah. It's an interesting question, or an interesting conversation in general. The Cardi B thing, I'm not gonna need to boycott her music, so I don't listen to that shit in the first place. I don't really care all that much.
Bloody shoes or whatever that fucking song is.
Yeah, I mean, she's actually playing a music festival here pretty close, and we were talking about maybe going to it. She was one of like the 3 or 4 performers that I'd actually like heard of, and it'd be kind of cool. I've never seen like a big production kind of hip-hop pop concert before. You know, I'm sure there's lots of costume changes and backup dancers and all that kind of stuff that I'm not used to seeing at concerts, but I'm just not a big fan of her music. That's all.
Go, man, have fun. Just make sure you like watch your drink.
Yeah. And on that note, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up, you guys. And speaking of wrapping this thing up, if you're ever around Cardi B or those 2 twins from Brazil, you meet 2 twins from Brazil, wrap it up. Thank you guys again for stopping by. We really do enjoy the conversation with you guys as well. So if you have any thoughts, you want to weigh in, get controversial with us down in the comment section, let's do that. And if you enjoyed this video, do us a favor, take just a second to smash that little thumbs up button right there. It really helps us know that you support the show and encourages us to keep on talking terrible. And if you want to stay up to date with all of the content, then all you got to do is subscribe, click the bell, and then cross your fingers that we don't get like not recommended or that it doesn't show up in your feed because of the stuff that we talk about. But until next time, and on behalf of me and Caleb, be terrible.